thank Shayla for coming on board. Shayla's an accomplished B2B content marketer. She not only creates, but also promotes content. It's, you know, it's the two-headed beast, and she's been there. She lives at the intersection of digital marketing, technology, and social responsibility, which is, you know, a nice topic. I'm sure it's close to her heart. Shayla has earned her stripes working for Kissmetrics, Agora Pulse, well-known social platforms, HostGator. You think about host companies and tech, these are huge B2B content marketers and advertisers. So, you know, there's a lot of activity there that she's been party to, and Shopify Plus. So, you know, that platform as well. She contributes, she's an influencer. Shayla has contributed to Entrepreneur and Huffington Post. So we're very fortunate to have Shayla with us today. And Shayla, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you.
I'm gonna stop my screen share.
Okay. I'm also hopeful that the speakers today have a chance to get together and get to know each other better. Maybe you've met everybody on the road at conferences and such, but you know, these are some of the best interactions that I think you have, is when you get to meet the other people, speakers at the conference.
Yes, definitely. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we got your slides up. That's great.
Okay then. Well, let's get started. Again, thank you for allowing me for the opportunity to really talk about this topic. It's near and dear to my heart. Really hiring great people is how you get great content. And like Michael said, I'm a B2B content marketer. I contribute to Entrepreneur and Huffington Post, and I've also spoke at conferences, Woo Conference and WordCamp Miami. And you can always follow me, ask me questions on Twitter at Shayla Price. Why do you need great writers? So what's the purpose of hiring someone for your team? And I start with this great quote by Seth Godin: being aware of your fear is smart, is the mark of a successful person. When we think about hiring people, we're hiring them because we have possibly a fear. we sometimes get weirded out that we have to hire somebody else out, but we have to acknowledge that fear. And overcoming it is what's going to help our business. So think about that as you begin to hire not only writers, but other people part of your team. You have to overcome it. Hire a great writer because you want to focus on your strengths. Maybe your team right now is focusing on getting a new product out. The sales team is having conversations constantly with new people trying to get leads in. Individuals are worried about email campaigns, or your public relations team is worried about getting the word out, talking to local events. They have other things to do, and writing is a part of all these components, but to do certain things. So you need to focus on your strengths, so you let the writer do it. And also you need to possibly improve your existing content. Right now your blog posts may be relevant. You may see that you have typos and grammatical errors showing up everywhere in your white papers. And sometimes you just need to transform your old content into new formats. So you may want to transform that blog post into an ebook. How do you do that? How do you get all the right components in the organization together? You will need a writer for that. I want just to attract new customers. It's time. We live in a world where we need to integrate content into our lead generation strategies. As you know, we've been talking about the sales funnel. Where does content fit? And you need individuals to write that content, to attract new customers, and also to convert consumers down the line. Allow content to be that hub for you, to really tell individuals, saying, hey, we have a product, here's some information. What is that information? And you need a writer for that. And also to add content to your brand loyalty programs. We normally think of brand loyalty as that app we use at Starbucks to say, hey, we want to redeem this offer. But you also need that content. You need what words to use. You need a writer to provide that information and have that expertise. Because again, you have other people doing other things in your departments, but who is going to write the content? Some just quick tips just about why you need to really hire a great writer is first you need to just talk with your team. Why do you sit down and have a conversation about why you need a great writer? Why does your company need it? And discuss which department will benefit the most. We all don't have the biggest budget, so maybe marketing team might need it more than the sales team, or the sales team might need it more than the public relations team. Where will that writer fit into your group, into your team? Also, take notice of your fears and weaknesses. Again, you can't do everything, and you don't want to do everything. That's why you hire people. And we sometimes think of writers hire great writers, and that's not necessarily the truth. We need someone who has expertise to create the content for those particular departments. So defining your expectations. What do you want from your writers? You need these writers. You need different types of content. You may be going through and you need blog posts. How many blog posts? Maybe 5 per month. You need ebooks. You need white papers and case studies. And also think about not just the type of content you need, but also the content topics. Exactly what would your writer be discussing? Will they be discussing SEO, content marketing, or will they be discussing if you have a company that handles automotives or something in the tech industry like wearables? What topics will that writer be tasked to do? And also think of the content levels. And that means, is this beginner level content, intermediate, or advanced? Because everyone doesn't have that knowledge. So you got to think about your writer, where they are at in that particular, funnel as well, because they might not be able to write advanced level content. If your audience are experts, you need someone to handle certain types. Acceptable in your content. So of course we don't want plagiarism. That's a big no-no. And also, what about author credit? Individual, if you're hiring a freelance writer, will you give them credit, a byline, or will it just be totally ghostwritten and given to particular people in the departments will get their bylines? And also think about your formatting guidelines. These are guidelines where you are writing your branding. Will you have to have discussing dedicating it to a certain organization, or will you co-write it with someone at a different organization, or you're in a different co-marketing initiative and you need to be part of it together? And just think about citations. Some organizations are great with just putting a link. Others want actual citations at the bottom of their page. And it just depends on your organization. Are you looking for a more research advanced writer? Or are you just looking for someone who can just do simple research online and provide that link? Define what's acceptable content. What needs to be included in that ebook and that blog post.
So Shayla, can I ask a question here? Shayla?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So the question is, I see, what's acceptable content, and you're mentioning citations. What is a method of linking, or accepting links, or is that part of this at this point?
Well, you have to discuss that with your team and also with your writer. Sometimes they may add links that you don't like. You need to find out what's acceptable. Of course, you don't want to add links from the competitors. So you just might want to create a list of all your competitors so the writer can know that.
Very important. Okay, thanks.
And here's an example from HubSpot. And this is their guest post guidelines, but it's also great when you're just hiring freelance writers. These are some of the things they don't accept. So anything covered already on their blog. So if you're having your freelance writer pitch articles of article topics, we don't want anything that's already fitting the topics that we've discussed. Nothing construing and link building schemes. Nothing that's too promotional. Again, going back to, if that freelance writer is working for multiple companies, maybe you just don't want another company mentioned, and you need to discuss that up front. And of course, nothing offensive or inaccurate. We want everything by the books. We want all the information to be the most up-to-date. Some organizations I know only accept research that's 2 to 3 years old. Past that. And also just be critical of the individuals and the companies that you include. That's just an example from HubSpot for their guest posts, but you can use this as an example when you're hiring your own freelance writers of what not to accept. Spreading the word. So how do you get great people on your team when you're having these expectations? So first, referrals, always the best, because you know the individual you're talking to. You can just say, hey, I'm looking for, because this happens a lot in Slack channels. You may be in a Facebook groups. Hey, I'm looking for someone. Can you refer anyone? And people have a good sense of and great writing is, so they may refer someone to you. Also social media, job boards. And if you're really interested in just looking for them yourself, top publications like those Huffington Post, Entrepreneur, and read those bylines. You already have their writing sample. So just go read their article. And if you like them, reach out to them on Twitter, or they might have their email address. Also, don't be afraid, because 43% of freelance writers look for new writing jobs every day of the week. They're constantly on the hunt for new work. So don't feel like you're interfering when you're or bothering someone. Just simply ask, I have a project, might be interested, send a quick email or a tweet to them. Example on Twitter. So on Twitter, you can type in key search word terms like freelance writer, freelance writing, or writing gigs, things of that nature, and people will be discussing those topics. And you can also look under accounts, and you might be able to find certain people who have freelance writer or freelance editor in their particular bios. So that'll help you also see put a name to the person's face, and see what they're talking about and what possibly samples they have written in the past. And here's an example from ProBlogger's job board, and it's from Canva. And this is a good, you have to think about how you're going to present your company to freelance writers. Again, it's a job interview for both of us when you're hiring the writer and for the company. So how are you going to present yourself? And I thought this was a great example. First, they company us. I think we sometimes forget about it. What do you do? What does your company provide to consumers? And they also, they want. So topics in the second paragraph: social, content, design, email, SEO. That's what they're looking for. So you tell if the writer fits into that category, they can continue reading. And then they talk about what the typical article word length looks for them, 1,500 to 2,000 words. And you'll also need to do extensive research for this particular job. So you're telling them up front what you need just in this process, which can count, like can eliminate half of your writers. So if you have a good job board listing, work up front, you won't get all the examples of people just coming in there are just looking, oh, I saw your job post, what do you need? You told them what you needed in the job post. And also look at the how to apply section. You give the email address as well as the subject line, so you can filter through, and they're looking for 3 of your best published articles. So if you can do something like this on your job board, you're starting off great, because you provided all the information up front. And it just eliminates the stress at the end of hiring, of sifting through hundreds of applications.
Nice. So
here's some quick notes, quick tips. Create guidelines outlining your expectations. Again, you're working with your team, you need to know what you're looking for, so that you can tell the writer, this is what I need up front. Jot down your ideal job duties for the first 30 days. Again, even though this is freelancing, in a month span, because you might actually hire this person to work 2-3 months in advance. What do you need? Do we need that ebook done today? Or do we need those 5 blog posts by the end of the month? So just like any other job, you need to have some job duties already listed out for that individual. And always seek new writers, even when you're not hiring, because as freelance writers, people are not committed to you, so they can leave after a certain project, or things just, life happens and they can't complete a task. You just need to have people that you can contact And that, again, if you're going through the job boards and you may hire two people out of 5, tell those 3 people, hey, not hiring you now, but we might have some things open in the future. Would love to keep your contact information. That's acceptable. They just want to know upfront that, you know, this is an opportunity in the future and that you like their work. You just can't hire them at this time. Evaluating and selecting great writers. You need to have a collaborative hiring process. This was said by Steve Jobs, and I've been talking about that. It's all about teamwork, because when we look at writing, we're sometimes biased, what we've seen before. So we need to have a group effort so we know what we need as a team to have the best content available to us. And we can only do that if we're working as a group and brainstorming. You don't want to do it yourself. A great thing to do is to create a rubric. It's just like in teaching, you need to have a rubric. So first you can list tone. What type of tone do you want the writer? Is it casual, formal? Again, going with the content levels. Will it be for beginners or for advanced customers? Word choice. Do you have specific terms that you want them to use in their writing? Are they using more words that are, again, towards the beginners, or is it something more for advanced people? And then just the organization of somebody's work. Do they have that simple organization of intro, few paragraphs, quotes, research, and then sentence structure? Do they start the same sentence off with the same word every time? These are just some simple things to look at when you're looking at people's writing. Like, does it flow? Does it manage? And you can always, again, use examples that you like and then match it up with the writers that you're getting, so you can have a balance of what you like. And that's what some organizations do that I know. They may see HubSpot or see an article they like in Huffington Post and use that as a framework when they're hiring writers. They say they want something like that, and then they use it when they're getting writing samples from other writers. And this is just a simple rubric I got from a teaching website. And of course it says student, but you can always place that with employee, freelance writer. Just look for something like if your topic is lively and interesting when they started, or do they provide support reasonings, and are they providing standards when they're writing opinions? Just, it's simple. You can have like 5 sentences, whether are they weak at it, average, or strong, and just to give you a criteria of how to base. And then when you have your writers stacked up against each other, you can say, oh, this person was strong in this. We might let them do this ebook instead of this blog post, just to give you a sense of how to approach the process, because you just don't want to hire somebody based off of, oh, this is great. They have to have some kind of rubric and some measurements.
Awesome.
So writers' background, read bios, LinkedIn, personal websites, get to know who they are, find them on Twitter, see how they interact with other people, what their backgrounds are important too, because I've had in the process, just because I used to work in the nonprofit sector, I've written for the nonprofit sector, and other organizations might be going into the nonprofit sector or working on social responsibility. Right. They want to hire me for that. So just look at their background. Maybe something in there sparks and like, oh, we are having an initiative about that. This writer might be great because they have a background already in it. Check writing samples. Just like anything in life, you want to copyscape and make sure they're not plagiarized, and make sure they're not using someone else's writing sample, because that has happened in the past, where people send in writing samples and it's not their original, they're not their own. So you just want to do a simple copyscape, and Paperator is a good tool if you want to analyze. If you're not great at spelling, grammatics, and you don't know what good looks like, you can put their writing samples into Paperator and see a pop-up of what's their level of success in achievement. It actually marks off. It's almost like Grammarly. It marks off what they've done wrong and simple things of word choice and that nature. So that's how you can learn more about your writer's background. And then just some good housekeeping. When you're collecting, you should do this for hiring anyone. send an email receipt of the application saying, hey, received your application. I'll tell them your timeline. I expect to hire somebody within the 2 weeks, or at least get back with you in 2 weeks. And also, if you're doing paid, if you're doing trials, do paid trials, because you want to hire the best, and the best they want to get paid, and they don't want to give you free spec work. So if you're looking at a group of people and you have, like I say, 100, and you're all the way dwindling it down to like 10, let those 10 do paid trials. It's just a courtesy of, it might not be at the same rate. It might be at their full rate or just half. It's just a courtesy that you are a great company, and that you respect your writer's work, and that you just want to see if they can do a particular a writing sample for you. And here's an example from Founder. They provided me, I applied for a position, and they're just telling me, hey, we received a lot of responses. We'll get back with you by the end of the week. Yeah, nothing big. You can send that just as just saying, hey, we are looking out for you. We know you exist, and we got your application. So some quick tips: involve multiple team members in the selection process, so that you know that you're not being biased, and that you're providing yourself with a basis and foundation for looking for great writers. And also develop a rubric that meets your company's needs. What I provided might not meet your company's needs, so figure out what those are and put those in a rubric. And also establish a timeline to contact your applicants. So if you receive 200 applicants, send a quick email just saying, we received your application, and we will be deciding on a selection in a couple weeks. And then there's onboarding great writers. So you've already hired these great people, so we want them to stay. So how do we do that? Provide them with content briefs. So they don't know anything about your company. They need to be integrated just like anyone else. So provide them with the customer life cycle, buyer personas, and also editorial calendars. So the editorial calendar is not going to be handled by the writer in most organizations. It's by the content manager, content marketing manager, the editor-in-chief. Those are the usual job titles. And so provide that to the writer, so they know when to provide deadlines, and also who to write for. Buyer personas are important. It really helps to know who you're writing for, what terms they like to use in their writing. It just gives them a good brief. Really provides some base for the writer to start doing their research. And just here's an example from a fictitious company. They provide the story of the company, what their brand story is, also the title of what the brief title of what this article or white paper is going to be about, the description, and just what the audience focuses on, and just notes. You want to, again, you're not going to do this all the time for the writer, but if you have this basis when they're onboarding, just to start them off, it's going to make your life real easy at the end of the day as they get transitioned into knowing what your company is about. And then the writing process, where you have weekly meetings. They need to tell the writer that up front, because they need a block time, and also when you're negotiating hiring the writer, they need to know if that time was billable and if they will be compensated for that. Also collaborative editing. How will the editing process go? Will it be 1, 2, 3 edits? Will we be in a Google Doc editing together? How will that work? And how long will that take? What's the normal process for that? And any publishing duties. When we think of writing, we just think of somebody writing a blog post, but what about if they're uploading it to WordPress? Or what if they have to add the images or do the SEO component of the writing? Those are just additional duties that need to be discussed up front. And when you're doing that, then you can put them into the writing process so they can make it easier. Everyone knows what they're supposed to do. And just overall company policies. They are part of your team. Make them aware of cultural norms. That helps with email, so there's no jokes that are rude or incorrect that are said. You just want them part of the team. Payroll schedule. Let them know when they're getting paid. You'd be surprised how freelancers are forgotten sometimes in the payroll. It has happened to me. It's not pretty. It reflects bad on the organization. So you want to let them know up front, this is our pay schedule. You'll get paid just like everybody else on this particular date, every 2 weeks, every week. Just let them know. And also access to resources. So will they be part of your Slack team? Will they get access to your Facebook group? Will they have their very own email address when they're reaching out to contacts for research when they're writing articles or white papers? Do that up front. Let them know when you're onboarding. Again, just like any other employee or contract worker you will have. Content builds relationships. Relationships are built on trust, and trust drives revenue. This is stated by Andrew Davis. He's a marketing speaker and best-selling author. And this, I guess it goes back to the whole point of building content. Why do you need a reader? Because at the end of the day, you want to have relationships, you want to have that trust, and you want to have revenue. That's the goal of hiring great writers. It will help you get revenue at the end of the day if you're selecting them right, if you're thinking about the end goal, if you're working with your team and hiring these writers. So keep that in mind when you're saying, do we really need a writer? Do you really need revenue? So that's just something to keep in mind when you're having those conversations around with your team. And some quick tips: give your writers content direction, provide those briefs, let them know upfront what they need to do. Create a flexible writing process for growth. So in the beginning, you may be editing heavily, having 2 or 3 edits. They should be at the end of a month or 2 months, whatever goal you set up, they should be on their own after a while. It should be light editing at some point. And also introduce writers to your company's values. Bring them into the team. Let them know that they are part of the mission of driving, whether that's introducing customers to your new product or just spreading the word about how great your company is. Let them know about what's happening and bring them on board to your values and your mission. Any questions?
That's good. That's great, Shayla. So, thanks for fleshing out this process with examples. So, you brought up a rubric, and then you actually showed us a rubric, and thinking about how to quantify what you're getting from each writer and being able to compare them over the course of their writing for you, or compare them to each other. That was, great stuff. I actually snapshotted the screen because I want to be able to build out from that. But so, Mike, I see a question, and the question is, and of course, we only have a minute. So, I'm going to ask you the most complex question I possibly can.
Of course.
But the question is, so I've spoken to others in my company. I've built up a consensus. We have an idea what kind of content we want to build, say, on a weekly or a monthly basis. Now, is there some guidance for financially what a relative newbie in this could expect? I need to do twice monthly blog posts, or I need to in the space of 60 days I have to make a killer white paper. What is there some guidance that people can use monetarily? So
when it comes to, if you want the best, you're going to have to pay for it. But I would definitely, if you say you're on a tight budget and you still want the best, you're looking for people, even by word count standards, maybe 25 cents and up per word. And that's just for blog posts. As it gets deeper into research and white papers and ebooks, it gets higher and higher, the rate. But initially, if you're just starting off, ask for referrals from people that and you look at their work and you see that it's great, this is what you want, then ask to say, how much do you charge? Get a collective sample of those people, and then you have a basis of what to use for your budget. And so go off with what you like, just like you're in the grocery store or anywhere when you buy. So I want a radio, and I want that radio. How much does it cost? Oh, what features does it have? Oh, okay. And then that'll help you decide, maybe I don't want that just now. Maybe I need to go to somebody else. So just use that as a basis, a foundation for what you hope, but it starts with quality. That's what you want anyway. You want quality, so you may have to cut out some of that of your budget.
I hear that. Yes, that's great. And, you know, the idea of samples and looking at examples and, you know, asking people for samples of their writing or a portfolio or visiting their own blog or, you know, those kinds of things. It does rely a lot on, you know, getting examples of what they've done previously, and their relationship, writer's relationship with a client is a sample of how easy or how difficult they may be to work with. So that's great stuff. Now, what in particular would our audience say follow you on Twitter for? What are they going to learn about you?
Well, I have a lot of articles. I do mostly content marketing and just writing in general, giving out everything from a lot of my clients to just stuff that I find interesting. And just if you have any questions about freelance writing, about content marketing, anything in the B2B space, I'm here to help. And also maybe also to provide referrals, because I love the opportunity to give other people work, and that's what it's all about. And to match people up with great companies is just great. So feel free to contact me.
That's fantastic. You know, I really appreciate that. I'm sure the audience will. And you know, thanks for all your clarity. Really, among many of the speakers today, some of the topics were pretty complex. You did a great job of distilling this down to the essence. So, you know, thanks for that on behalf of the audience.
No problem.